The question was, so, where is the room to be just honest? Continued to ring even after the live broadcast ended. And maybe that's why the broadcast feels different from the late-night karaoke sessions we are used to from BTS's golden maknae. Over the years, Jungkook carried a certain image, perfection that walks, the youngest who excels in everything, reliable center, a figure who rarely complains. But that image, which has been continuously honed and repeated for more than a decade, can slowly turn into a cage. When you debut at 15, you're not just growing up, you're growing up in front of millions of pairs of eyes. Every mistake becomes content. Every silence becomes a theory. Every expression makes headlines. So when he spoke on that Weverse broadcast, what people were witnessing wasn't a scandal. It was an evolution. He did not rebel. It doesn't blame anyone. It does not reveal hidden conflicts. Instead, he did something much more powerful: normalize himself. The topic of smoking, which used to spark a wave of debate after the leaked video circulated, was discussed in a way that took away the drama. He admitted it. He said it had stopped. Then he went on living, without theatrical, without emotional manipulation. Just a quiet confession of a personal chapter that is already done. In an industry where idols are often expected to deny everything or apologize excessively, that neutral attitude feels almost revolutionary. And maybe that's exactly what makes some people feel uncomfortable. Because when idols look perfect, the public feels safe. There is a script. There is a predictable reaction. But when an idol steps a little outside the script, even gently, it forces fans and critics alike to confront their own expectations. Why does a mature man's confession of past habits feel surprising? Why does quiet honesty feel like a struggle? What Jungkook seemed to want to convey, without ever raising his voice, was this: growth is allowed. He did not ask for validation because he had stopped. He does not demand sympathy. He did not position himself as a misunderstood victim. He only admitted to trying. I worked so hard to quit smoking. That sentence alone already speaks volumes. It's not a matter of habit. It's about discipline, about self-awareness, about the change. And the change is something that ARMY has witnessed many times over the years. From a shy teenager who used to introduce himself nervously on stage to becoming a global solo artist who dominated the world charts, Jungkook's journey is intensely documented. But ironically, some of his most important personal growth actually happened quietly, far from the official stage and planned choreography. The live broadcast felt like a small window into that quieter evolution. Another striking part is the way he talks about the company. In the fan room, often any perceived restrictions immediately turn into accusations against the agency. But Jungkook doesn't feed that narrative. He described the company as a protective party. He acknowledged the balance. He even asked that there be no hatred that does not need to be directed at the agency. Such nuances are important because it shows maturity, the understanding that the relationship between the artist and the agency is complex, professional, structured, and it has limitations that are not always visible to the public. Instead of sparking speculation, he opted for stability. There is also something very human when he talks about transparency. He admits that if it's entirely up to him, he wants to share more. That subtle acknowledgement hints at the invisible wall that idols always face, the difference between what they feel and what they're allowed to say. It is not bitterness. That's reality. And maybe that's what makes the broadcast feel intimate. Not because of the dramatic reveal, but because of the emotional honesty delivered without the chaos. Even the beginning of the broadcast, casual singing, light laughter, spontaneous commentary, had set the mood. It feels like someone sitting in his room at 3 a.m., not performing but just living his existence. There's something powerful when idols allow themselves to simply exist without a script. Of course, being Jungkook means that even just being can be a trending topic. The MSN article that appeared afterwards highlighted that his response was more than just a viral clip. It represents a generational shift. Idols who debuted as teenagers are no longer children who are fully shaped by management and public opinion. They are adults who have experienced life, mistakes, lessons, and personal decisions. And perhaps the most important point is not about smoking at all. Rather, it's about boundaries. Jungkook shows that you can set boundaries without hostility. You can clarify the rumors without attacking anyone. You can acknowledge growth without apologizing for living it. That balance, calm yet firm, reflects a person who understands his position in the world today. He is no longer just a youngest member. He is a man of almost 30 years who has spent half his life behind the camera. The fact that he could still speak softly, still laugh easily, still care about the impact of his words, it spoke louder than any controversy. And maybe that's why the fans who watched the broadcast didn't leave feeling surprised. They leave feeling calm. Calm down because he saw him thinking,
grow, pondering.
Choose his words carefully, but without fear. Choose honesty, even if it risks triggering criticism. In a world where silence fuels speculation and speaking fuels judgment, Jungkook chooses clarity. And clarity in the K-pop industry is something that is rare. About the photos of him taking a leisurely walk with his older brother, those lonely images now feel symbolic. Not dramatic. Not made up. Only a young man walks his life at his own pace. Living with family. Spend time with friends. Take a breath out of the spotlight, even if it's just for a moment. Fans who are hoping to see him with Jimin again soon only expressed affection, the warmth that always accompanies their closeness. But behind the ship, the headlines, and the debate, this moment actually highlights something much simpler. Jungkook was growing. Not explosively. Not by rebellion. Only slowly and surely. And perhaps steady growth, calm, balanced, and self-aware, is the most powerful statement he can make. Because sometimes, the boldest move in the industry is built on the thrill, is choosing not to create it at all. And it is precisely in that calm that many people begin to see the side of Jungkook that may have been hidden behind the spotlight of the stage. Over the years, the public knew him as an almost flawless performer. On stage, he was precise. In the studio, he was a perfectionist. In every solo or group project with BTS, he always gives the highest standard. But the live broadcast showed something different. Not Jungkook the superstar, but Jungkook as a human. There was a pause in the way he spoke. There was a small silence before answering. There are expressions that are not formed for the camera. And all of that feels real. When he says that if he is silent, he will be misunderstood, and if he speaks, he will also be criticized, that sentence is not a complaint. That's an observation. He was aware of the pattern that had occurred over the years. Every step is analyzed. Every personal choice is dissected. But instead of showing emotional exhaustion, he opted for a more mature approach. Explain as necessary, then move on.